Welcome to the United States podcast. My name is Niti, and we are broadcasting live from the Food Church here in North Carolina. If you've missed past episodes, please be sure to take the time to at least watch the first episode to have a proper introduction to our conversations. Please be aware that we expect you to behave with honor in our comment section. We are people at peace, and we have declared peace to all nations around the world. This is not a marketing or a promotional channel. We are shining a light on knowledge that is being hidden from you. We are sharing the truth about your birthright and your inheritance. We have marshals at arms that are designated as moderators who are assisting in the comment section. If you have questions, please put them in all caps and only enter them once per show. I am joined on air with our North Carolina Marshal at Arms, Cynthia Pinkston, and now I am proud to introduce you to Justice Anna Maria, who is joining us live from Alaska today. Good morning, Anna.
Good morning, everybody.
How's everybody doing?
Oh,
It's a good one, huh? It's been a good week.
it's always something. We're slogging through and doing our best.
It's always something. Listen, Anna, last week you told us that the GFG Bank is now able to accept bills of lading. And I kept waiting for folks to start asking about this and for everyone to kind of like be excited about it. And I'm not sure that people comprehend what this means. And so I wondered if you could please teach us all what bills of lading are and the instrumentality of them in law merchant or commerce exchanges on the land, and how we use them when we notice our employees with instructions about what we want or need them to do.
Well, that's not ready yet.
Oh, it's not ready.
No. All international trade banks can accept bills of lading, and all merchant banks can accept bills of lading. However, you have to have an established asset-backed currency in gold, which of course we now have with the AFD. And then you can begin trading with all the other international trade banks and merchant banks. Unfortunately, there are not that many international trade banks and merchant banks still operating. And it's because these crooks that have been forcing the fiat money down our throats have gradually forced them out of business. So the bills of lading have been basically unavailable to us in this country since they took us off the gold standard. Bills of lading require you to have a gold-backed currency that is available for trading. And so we had to build not only the currency to do that, but also the International Trade Bank and its framework all had to be sorted out. So now we have a currency that's competent to trade in that venue, and we have a bank that's competent to trade in that venue. And we're in the process of reaching out to those banks that still exist, that are true merchant banks and true international trade banks. But we're also having to build new trade banks in other corners of the world and in the US so that we have trading partners. And so back in 1913, when they instituted the Federal Reserve System, there were a lot of international trade banks. Today, there are very few. And we have to rebuild that whole network to make it work. It's a mammoth job, but it's going to make it possible for you to trade in your AFDs. It will just expedite being able to trade internationally with AFD. That's what it will do.
You have that you're working on Alaska, Texas, New York,
Well, actually, what we're doing is we're setting up regional hubs for our credit unions. And they are to be in Virginia, New York, California, Texas, Minnesota. Those are the 5 starting out on the continental United States. And then there will be one in Hawaii following quickly thereafter, and probably one in Alaska, because Alaska is positioned to be a hub internationally, because if you look at the globe, we're actually positioned very well that way. And everybody else will then start their credit union for their state. But the hubs will be where we kind of bring together people and resources to be able to teach the surrounding states the ropes and get everybody connected. So that's that progress.
Wow. You just like to take on the big jobs, Anna. You just like, let me just reconstruct everything. 'Cause it's like,
Well,
wow. If that's what we need, Listen, so back to the bill of lading real quick. I just wanted to also learn a little bit more about how the corporatocracy officials, when they're noticed by like U.S. citizens or other, even like Canadian citizens, they've been known to leave office for the inability to take like responsibility for when they're being noticed with these bills of lading. And I just wondered something like, if we're noticing them, since we actually have provenance, standing, and jurisdiction giving us authority, how do you suppose they would react to us versus them?
Oh, they'd be terrified. I mean, this has been something that they've foisted off on the people for over 100 years, resulting in great harm to the people. So they know that they're on the hot seat, and if we're holding them commercially liable, they're going to be looking at liens on their property. They're going to be looking at court actions. They're going to be looking at us monetizing our liens against them. There's a lot that will happen as a result of them continuing to drag their feet and be silent and play this game of, oh, we don't know what you're talking about, and we're not going to bother to find out either. We're just going to call you names. And basically that's what their response is, oh, you're a talking horse. You're not credible because you're a horse.
They wish that they wish. I think that, okay, last night, Anna, you said that, on our assemblies, there are people who are interested, they're interested in they have special interests, but also aside from the special interests, like the ones of us that are working on the various pillars, we're just wanting to learn how our pillar would work, better, and like learn our positions and learn our jobs. So part of that, being part of the international business pillar would be communicating with them. And it is my understanding the only way that we would be only communicating with them in writing. I'm assuming, like, we're not probably having face-to-face conversations with them.
Well, you could. There's nothing keeping you from doing that. Technically, they're supposed to be representing you in the jurisdiction of Admiralty and Maritime, and you can still go into their congressional office and you can say, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
What's the meaning of this? Why is it you're not providing help to Lahaina, Hawaii, but you're spending billions on proxy war in Ukraine?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think you're doing, and how long do you expect people to put up with this?
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of things that you can go directly to them and say, all right, well, what exactly do you think you're doing, and how is that benefiting anyone in this country?
So until we're fully seated, that's probably not something that you encourage. I don't know that our coordinator would be very happy if I just started doing something like that right now, because he'd be like, Look, let us get our pillars up. And so, not trying to be a distraction, I just want our people on our pillar to be able to work on the things that we would be working on, right? So that we can become proficient, right?
Right.
We're just trying to learn what we have to do. And so I'm trying to do everything that I can to learn, this law merchant, just the communication aspects of it. I figure if I practice just writing it, and we all on the pillar practice writing it, that we are doing, we're doing the work to get ready to be able to get, put the shingle out and say, okay, government.
Well, there are a lot of people that are angry because
Right.
they've been abused or someone in their family has been abused by the court system or, and as a result, they they get real testy when they communicate with members of Congress or, the territorial Congress or municipal Congress or whichever it is. And that doesn't really help.
No.
What helps is to bring forward the problem that's present right here now today. And whatever that particular problem is, to enunciate that in a very clear and polite but unequivocal way.
Right.
Not with a lot of breastfeeding and that doesn't work. What works is just having a very business-like approach.
Sure. I think writing is better because all of us have been violated 15 different ways. And there are a lot of emotions behind that versus when we're putting it in writing, it's a little bit cleaner. It's easier to be focused, like laser focused. That's what the pen helps us do, right? So I think for now, in the beginning, I think we should just be practicing our writing skills and become like better with that.
Okay, well, what I see happening with Patriot communications to like members of Congress or mayors or, what I see is number one, too much emotion based on past abuses. Okay.
Yeah.
Number two, there's a tendency to grind on and on and on and on, going back all the way to Thomas Jefferson. And, nobody's going to read that. I'm just going to be brutally honest with you. Nobody in any of those offices is ever going to read it. Okay. So it's important to keep your communications short and pithy and businesslike and to the point. And, if possible, make it one page. Okay. Just one page. But, or, take one big thing like the lack of a decent monetary standard, chemtrails, foreign spending while neglecting domestic duties. Pick your topic and just write your one or two paragraphs and make them count and send off the letter. What they
So
do.
starting with the governor level, is that too low? Like you're talking about
No.
Congress, and we're just like.
No, you want to talk about state issues with your governor. You want to talk about national issues with the Congress. Okay, so you make that divide in your mind. Is this a state issue? Is this something that's affecting me locally? Well, then take it to the governor. If it's a national issue, like, spending on a proxy war in Ukraine and you've got your tail in a knot because the people in Lahaina are still waiting for help, well, then, that's a national type spending issue. That's federal money that's being misappropriated instead of being returned to the local people when they need it. So, for example, there's been a spate of tornadoes and cyclones that have ripped across the country and caused a lot of damage. There have been declarations of disaster declarations and that sort of thing. And as usual, FEMA is doing nothing. They come in and they kind of go a check mark that, oh, yes, we examined this property and yes, it is destroyed. Gee, wow, we're really helped by that, FEMA. That just makes our day to tell us that, yes, our property was destroyed. All that does is make you eligible for a loan to rebuild and maybe a small grant of around $10,000 to $15,000, which doesn't even pay your hotel costs when you are trying to do something like this, right?
Right.
I might buy you a tarp shelter and a tent, right?
Right.
So they really aren't doing anything for you.
Right. They start these geoengineering weather warfare issues here for destruction on our homeland while they go out there and bomb over there with our money. And this is
Right.
basically what we're watching them do, isn't it?
Right. So, say that you're upset about this. The uselessness of FEMA and of federal quote unquote aid, they don't really do anything. I mean, you can get a loan from a bank or not, but anyway, you don't really need them to get in the middle of it. They're basically selling their services to disaster victims.
Right. Let's create a problem over here so that we can have a job for somebody that we pay a salary to. That's our guy versus giving the solution. Or how about we just don't create these problems in the first place so that we don't have to clean all that mess up. Like I'm the kind of person, Anna, who likes to stop the glass of milk from falling off the edge of the table. I don't like to keep cleaning up.
Imagine it. Imagine that.
Imagine.
But you can choose your topics carefully so
Okay.
that you have a pointed message right there, around that particular topic. Keep it to one page, make it pithy,
Okay.
but be businesslike.
Okay.
Let them know that you're a serious person and you are not pleased with their performance and with the Congress in general on this issue, and you would like to see changes made.
Okay.
And then, of course, the implication is if they don't make changes, then people will get busy and boot them out.
So are we trying to boot them out, or can I put a bill of lading behind it and say, fix this now? Otherwise, within so much time, then there's this much
They
penalty.
don't deal in bills of lading, Niti.
Okay, so how do we fine them for causing problems that they're creating a problem, which is causing harm, and then they want us to come to them for help? That's what they're doing.
Get this straight in your head. A bill of lading is trade bank and it's asset-backed money.
Okay.
They don't have any.
Okay.
They haven't had any asset-backed money of their own since 1913.
So they don't have asset-backed money. Got it.
All they have is fiat.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
And so if you're going to deal with them about any kind of money or anything like that, it has to be in commerce. Okay. And it has to be using Federal Reserve notes because that's their commercial script.
Okay.
So you wind up sending them a notice of liability.
Mm-hmm.
And you establish a lien on them, a commercial lien, a common law commercial lien. And then you can either take that common law lien and use it to extract gold and silver out of them, or you can establish a non-UCC lien and use it to extract fiat currency out of them. You've got a choice here. But either way, I'm not sure that that's the effective way to do it. I think it's more effective to start out with a simple business-like one topic letter about something that concerns you and bring it to their desk, and their staffer will actually read that one page and go, oh, this lady's really upset about this. Well, what do you think about it, Senator? And, if enough people send letters like that, then they definitely start taking notice of it because it's like, uh-oh, here's something that the public cares about. We better deal with that. Sending a letter to that congressional delegation refocuses their attention. And if it's something that has to do with what their particular Congress is actually responsible for, it's even that much more targeted. So, if for example, if it's an issue about the war in Ukraine and the billions of dollars spent to front a proxy war there, that's the territorial Congress, and you would write it to the upper and lower case. You know, in our case, for example, we have two U.S. senators from Alaska, um, Lisa Murkowski and Dan Sullivan. So, because it's a war issue, it's about war, it's about the spending of money on war and on those kinds of things, then you would be sending it to the upper and lower case Congress and to the upper and lower case office of the senator, right? And if it were something that was municipal in nature, say that you're disgusted by the fact that they're misusing and abusing the postal service to solicit responses. Courts are using this in an inappropriate way to misaddress Americans, and they're in violation of the postal service laws. And nothing's being done about it. You could write a letter about that, and then you would send that to the all capital letters. Then it would be U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan in all capital letters in our case. And that's how you distinguish. That's how you flip back and forth between a municipal function and a territorial function. And all you have to do is figure if it's a military issue and it's military spending or anything like that, it's upper lower case. If it's federal civil service, like misadministration of the IRS or anything like that, then it's all capital. Does that make sense? Now, if you're having a problem with the internal, obviously there are two internal revenue services, for example. There's the Internal Revenue Service that's spelled out upper lower case, and then there's the IRS. Okay, so if it's upper lower case, you match it up upper lower case. It goes to upper lower case Senator Hopper or whatever, okay? If it's the IRS, if it's the three-letter agency, then it goes to, Senator Hopper, all caps. And it's the same way with the courts. I just had to explain this yesterday. If they are addressing an upper lower case court, you'll notice that the plaintiff and the defendant are always upper lower case, and that's because they're in that jurisdiction. That means they're in admiralty jurisdiction. In the present court system, it means they're in admiralty jurisdiction. And if they address the all capital letters court and the all capital letters defendant and plaintiff, that means they're in municipal maritime jurisdiction. Okay? It's actually pretty simple. But that's why when you're addressing the court, you can't address the all capital letters court and then use upper lower case plaintiffs and defendants. The style convention has to match. It's the same thing with writing to the senators or writing to the governors. You have to kind of make the effort to distinguish, okay, am I talking to this guy acting in his territorial capacity about something that has to do with public safety? Or am I writing to him about something that has to do with a civil service function like property taxes? And, that just helps give your letter more credibility when you make the effort to distinguish between the two. It's not absolutely necessary because they're going to figure out what hat they're wearing, right, in any given topic. But if you take a little extra time and think about, which side of the fence military or civilian the issue sits on, then you can make that a little bit easier.
Okay, I'm ready for the next question. This one's a doozer. So let's talk about the Ten Commandments. Common law has the Ten Commandments. Our oath, after being elected in the public, has us swearing, or not swearing, but taking an oath to uphold the Ten Commandments. Any office that we hold, we should uphold the Ten Commandments. So all common law comes from that. If on our state someone isn't willing to uphold the Ten Commandments or to take an oath to uphold the Ten Commandments, can you speak to that?
Well, it's really pretty simple. Um, the Ten Commandments are the basis of common law and always have been for the last, however many hundreds of years. And our traditional government is founded on that form of law. So if you're going to restore the traditional government, then you are obligated to work under common law. Now, I personally don't understand why anybody of any religion would not agree to the Ten Commandments, because they are fundamental to Islam, they're fundamental to Judaism, and they're fundamental to Christianity. And I've never met a Hindu that ever disagreed about lying, cheating, murdering, adultery. They all agree to the basic premises and precepts of human interaction that you're going to deal with um, in terms of law. So actually, this idea that the Ten Commandments are offensive is just an individual quirk. And if they don't want to serve under those circumstances, then the question becomes, why not? What is it that you find that's wrong about the Ten Commandments? And they may say something like, the Ten Commandments begins with the first two commandments, which are religious in nature, and that, basically says, you shall honor the Lord your God, first and foremost, and not have any other gods before me. Well, if you're a member of a religion that believes in multiple gods, uh, that might be offensive because you're not monotheistic, right? But again, if you look at the great picture of the world and of religion, everybody believes in something greater than themselves. So, I think that's an individual quirk if they can't accept that.
I believe this is a shaman that has gone to join part of the assembly and refuses to uphold the Ten Commandments because of that. And the discussion was, can they even hold an office if they're willing? I yield.
Well, the weird thing is that we don't have a church and state relationship. We specifically separate church and state. So those elements of the Ten Commandments that are church issues, like your belief in one God, are separated. What they're really trying to hone down to is a code of ethics, that everybody can agree on. It's not right to lie. It's not right to steal. It's not right to murder. It's not right to lie about your neighbor in order to steal their stuff. It's not right to, go after your neighbor's wife. It's not right to, be plotting and scheming against your neighbor so that you can take over his land or his sheep or whatever. Okay, it's just a basic code of ethics. And since we have separation of church and state, it really doesn't mean that we're promoting a monotheistic religion, right? We're promoting a code of ethics that we've inherited from a monotheistic religion. So really, like I say, it's an individual thing. Natives believe in the Great Spirit. Well, okay, fine. What does it matter what you call this all-pervasive spirit? Really not. So I would want to hone down more on, okay, just exactly what are these ethical principles that you don't agree with? Do you think that people should be able to murder each other without any kind of consequence? Do you think that stealing and bearing a false witness is good? What complaint do you have with the Ten Commandments? And if it's the fact that, in this ancient Hebrew document, God is seen as a all-pervasive, all-powerful, omnipotent being that demands worship. Well, how is that really any different from the Great Spirit? How is that really any different than um, than Allah? How is that really any different than any of this? And we're not enforcing a religion here. We're enforcing a code of ethics that's common to the three great religions of the Western world. So it's the Ten Commandments was chosen because it is amenable to virtually everyone as a code of ethics.
Yeah. Okay. Chris wants to know, can we hold more than one elected court position?
I would say not, just because, number one, every position is going to entail a considerable amount of work, and most positions will bump up against conflict of interest if you continue in them. So if you're going to be a justice, be a justice. If you're going to be a clerk, be a clerk.
Mike wants to know, if amnesty ends with third notice, can we declare pirates and make bounty if no rebuttal? I like it. Sorry.
Well, piracy is actually
unlawful.
Piracy is piracy. I mean, it's a crime. And their process of making bounty on the high seas is an act of privateering. Okay, so what we have is bounty on the land. That's where bounty comes in. It's related to booty. Okay, so it's a land jurisdiction thing. It's not a sea jurisdiction thing. Now, there is such a crime as inland piracy. And I'm firmly convinced that in many cases that's what they are engaged in, is privateering, racketeering, and inland piracy. So, can you make bounty? Yes. Well, you can lien their property. You can then take those liens and you can monetize those liens. But you're doing it basically against their bonds and their insurance. You're actually bringing those liens against the property of their estates. Okay, you're doing unto them what they're doing unto you. The only difference is that now you have a bank that can monetize these things. The thing that you also want to be careful about is that you don't grossly overestimate your damages, because that makes the entire thing um, void and it lacks credibility. If someone steps on your toe and you want to charge them $1 million, well, then you'd better be able to back up your claim with proof that, yeah, you had to have all these multiple surgeries and they cost you this much and they laid you off your job for so long and blah, 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 blah. You better be able to back up your claim with actual factual, I was harmed and this is how I was harmed and this is how much it cost me as a result of the harm. And, and then add in whatever you want for your emotional distress, but you really need to be reasonable about these claims. Because somebody comes in with $1 trillion claim, the first thing that's going to be on everybody's mind is, what the, how did they suffer that much, right?
Isn't that a problem with these fee schedules that we put in with the people put them out with these astronomical figures that are not common or customary, that they're
Right,
astronomical, that you couldn't get anybody to back it up or believe it in any
right,
time?
right. Yeah, that's just nonsense. Nobody's going to respect that, or you know, it's not even possible that your valuable time is worth $1 trillion an hour. I'm sorry. If you're working as a laborer at $35 an hour, then that's what your labor is worth. Okay, and it's it's not like you can just play this airy fairy game. You need to be real, and people need to take stock of what it actually costs them, and not get so entirely emotional, because the limit is 3 times what it actually cost you. Okay. So you're not going to, lose $100,000 house and charge them $1 trillion for it, but you can charge them the 100,000 plus 200,000 in damages. Okay. So you can get 3 times, right? But don't go over that. Don't be silly. Don't send out fee schedules with, 1,000 per hour, all this kind of nonsense. Be real. Be practical. Be business-like, because this is business. 9/10 of the crimes that are committed against us are just commercial crimes. 9/10 of the things that happen are not blood in the streets. They're not murder. They're not, those kinds of things. So what you want to do is um, just be straightforward, total up your actual losses, and go times 3.
So for everybody that filed these fee schedules, that's about 2.5 inches thick, and it goes through and charges billions of dollars for a dog. And it has, like, I never seen such figures in all of my days. And I'm going, I ain't got nothing. If you took the whole kit and caboodle, it would worth that. So it's like,
Right. Well, they're never going to get that. They can ask for that as their initial bargaining position, but that's only going to kind of discredit them as being kind of a lunatic, right? So you don't want to do that. What you want to do is be realistic about, what this actually cost you. And, there are things that are beyond price. And, certainly when you're talking about the loss of living things, the loss of your child because of a vaccination, the loss of your dog because some policeman shot it. There's no possible recompense in money that can be made for that. I mean, it's like Randy Weaver. You remember the Ruby Ridge incident where, Randy Weaver's wife and baby and son and their family dog were all killed by these snipers crawling through the weeds. Now, there's no way in money to ever repay that. Ever. It cannot be done. There's no material gift, benefit, or repayment that can be made for many of the things that have been suffered by people. And so, faced with that reality, uh, that's why uh, our law has a rather draconian aspect to it. Um, Under our law, all those FBI snipers would have been hung a long time ago. There wouldn't be any, there might be also, remuneration in the form of money, but there would have been remuneration in the form of public vengeance. And that's what it's called, public vengeance for, abuse of government. So,
The fee schedules he filed that were astronomical stupid, in my opinion. And some of the states 2 years ago put in ex parte Milligan ex parte, when they weren't even with a pillar or more than 5 people on there. They have to go back and undo that ex parte Milligan before they can put in the new one at the point of being close to treatment. That first one
you
has,
cannot put in ex parte Milligan claims until your court is up and running. That should be obvious to anybody.
but if
That
they
has, that has nothing to do with. No, you can do a court of record, you can do other kinds of courts, but you should not put in an ex parte Milligan claim until your assembly court is actually up and running and staffed and has a jury pool.
Don is asking, so is it fair to say the system is quite a ways away for us being able to use our AFDs?
No, we're actually very close. When the credit unions open, you'll be able to use your AFDs. When the big bank opens, you'll be able to use your AFDs. And both of those things are now down to the wire. It's like you've got two racehorses. Which one is going to get to the finish line first? But they're both en route and they're both charging ahead. So it's not going to be a long wait anymore.
And what body of law would these credit unions be subject to?
They would be under our law. They would be under law merchant. Which every state has adopted law merchant, by the way. And every state has adopted law merchant. So it's not a question. It's not, oh well, they're off there doing some sort of patriot stuff that isn't already stamped and approved. Well, actually, yes, it is. Law merchant is part of the law of commerce. It's part of the UCC, and it's part of every state, and it's part of every federal entity. So yes, we can function under law merchant just fine.
That's awesome. Okay, so this is cleaning up more of the Sign in America thing. Could you clarify if all ASNs can still put in a claim to their state's coordinator for mortgages, liens, etc., because they thought it was closed? It was never closed, but a lot of people think it was closed. A lot of people were told it was closed. A lot of people stopped doing what
that was something that Terry said that got out of control. Basically, she made a mistake, and because it was Terry, everybody thought that the program was closed down. It wasn't closed down. It was that we couldn't guarantee that the moxies were going to be accepted or not. We had very spotty responses. Some people got their mortgages paid and other people didn't, and it wasn't obvious why. Okay.
Are you trying to keep this clean also with just these limited things, Anna, because it's easier for you to try to present it to them if it's just limited, like just mortgages, just ding ding, like couple of things versus them being remedied for whatever they might need monthly?
No, the real difference is that one is closed and one is open-ended. I mean, when you have a mortgage, it's for a certain amount of money, a certain term, a certain interest rate. It's defined. Boom. That's what it is.
Right.
Same thing with a car loan.
What about a renter's lease? Like, can they ask for their lease amount? Because otherwise renters are feeling like they have no remedy.
Well, renters will have a remedy when they have their prepaid credit cards because they'll be able to pay their rent off of the prepaid credit card every month.
Right.
But people who have a mortgage are burdened down with a debt that is over their heads for 30 years.
Right.
And
Now, I'm glad you're explaining this because there's this huge war going on and you're cleaning it up. So thank you for that.
well, it shouldn't be a war. Things that are very variable and individualized go in one box. Things that are set in cement and are, multi-term, multi-year agreements that are going to affect you, like a car loan, a finished collection of college loans, a mortgage, things like that, that you have a set amount, you have a set limit, you have a set term of years to pay it back. Those are kind of like big clumps of bricks, if you will. They go in one box. And the other things like utilities, credit, um, those monthly bills that change and that vary widely from person to person because of their particular situation, those go in another box. Those are like bottles of water because they're very fluid and they change from month to month. So what you need for that is a prepaid credit card where you can just go in and pay that off of that credit card. So one group of bills requires one solution and the other requires a different kind of solution, and that's why we're just asking for the mortgages, the big ticket loan type things now.
Is geoengineering a military or issue or municipal? I think you told me it was criminal.
It is criminal. But if you were writing a letter to a congressman or to the governor about this, I would consider it a military issue because actually they're supposed to be guarding our airspace, and what the hell is going on here?
So, Anna, on that topic, is it fair to say, like, when we're addressing Congress or our governors, isn't it fair for us just to say, why aren't you just guarding our airspace? Why is this being allowed? Instead of us getting into like, oh, we got to go figure out who the people are. No, I mean, these guys know what they're doing and they know what they're allowing to.
Well,
And
okay, but part of this is, are they allowing it? Probably not. Your governor probably does not know who is spraying, but he should know, and you can hold him accountable and say, okay, well, who's spraying all this crap?
if he wanted to know, he would know. Like, I feel like if he wanted to know anything, he would know what he wanted to know, right?
Ever heard of plausible deniability, Niti?
Well, right, but this is why I'm saying, like, if I'm going,
but if you're holding him accountable,
right?
Okay, Mr. Smith, you are our governor, and this stuff is being dumped on us by unknown parties.
Right.
Isn't it your job to know who's dumping it on us and why?
And make it stop.
Yeah, and make it stop.
Right.
So, a governor of a state does not have the same power as a true governor, but they do have the power to, as a franchisee, make complaint and to find out information. So if it's the military that is spraying all this crap as some sort of DARPA experiment, he should be able to find out who. And if it's, DHNSS or, whoever it is, he should be able to find out who's doing it, and he should be able to request it to stop in your state. Now, you can hold these guys accountable, and you can bring this to their attention so that they no longer have plausible deniability to say that, oh, I didn't know this was a terrible problem. Okay. No,
Okay.
well, that's our job. Remember what I taught you? You have to object.
Yes, we must object, friends. We must object. We must object.
Right.
Look, thank you, Anna.
If you don't object, they just say, oh, well, they acquiesced.
Yeah, silence is acquiescence, friends. Silence is acquiescence.
So do not be silent anymore. Great silent majority out there. You take your pet peeves and you start shoving them under their noses, and you keep record of your correspondence. You send these things using like express mail, where you get your little sticker that tracks your correspondence so that they can't say they didn't get it or that you didn't send it.
Richard wants to know that you mentioned Indonesia, Africa, Europe, Australia to build up GFG. Why choose only Indonesia and Southeast Asia region? Is it because these are the people who want to contract with the bank? I mean, I don't know.
We didn't choose only Indonesia. That's just so far the only contact we've had from anyone in East Asia that wants to do business with Global Family Group. And so, everybody else in the world is welcome to set up a bilateral bank and start working with us. We're very happy to have people from all over the world join the effort and to, go back to a sane bank system.
Yeah. And Amani's asking, how do we write a lien and enforce it? Policy officer, etc. I think, well,
there are different kinds of liens. You can write a common law lien like we wrote against the American Bar Association and the International Bar Association. Or you can do a non-UCC lien using the UCC system, and you can establish agricultural liens on anything that's living or anything that's soil-based, like land. There are many different kinds of liens that you can establish. Most liens are used to secure a property right or to... Just a second, kids. I got to take this.
You're fine, Anna. I got you muted. Amani, we can work on this if you're interested. Let me know. If this is who I think it is. This is North Carolina. Amani, I don't know. Okay. Michael, that's a good question. Can we get everybody on the same page? Can everybody work together? Don't we all want to work together?
There's some great information out there where they just had a National Assembly on outreach.
Yes.
That had a postcard. That postcard is something Anna's been working on that Ohio put out. It is fabulous information. There's Anna, put her back in. But that's how it's best to get your assembly working together. And that outreach was fabulous.
Yes. The think tank that they've started is really cool. And the meeting was really good. And they shared the link for the replay. And where do we have it? Where are we sharing it?
Listen, I got it everywhere. Anna wrote the first page on it, and I went, oh.
I think we shared a link. We shared a copy of that on our Telegram, right? So, Michael, go to the United States of America Telegram page, and we've shared access to that meeting so you can get involved. It was really good. Okay, Anna. So Donna is asking if the credit unions are not in her actual state, will she be able to use it?
The answer, unfortunately, is you won't be able to immediately use it, but they will be able to send out personnel from the regional office to help your state's assembly set up their credit union.
That's super exciting.
And remember, once we get these regional ones set up, then we'll be able to provide the money to buy a building and to get your software and your computers all set up and to make your hires of your people. So actually, the regional hub offices are very important in that they then can supply all the manpower and the money to actually have your own bricks and mortar federal, not federal, but credit union in your state.
Nice. Virginia is not far from North Carolina, friends, so we're super excited. All right. Public ministers have original jurisdiction in their Supreme Courts. Should our assembly elect one? No. I don't know. Anna?
The Supreme Court in our states is the county court. So what you really have to work on is developing your county assemblies and your county courts, because they are the supreme dictators of everything within their county borders. So when you're talking about a Supreme Court in our government, it isn't anything in Washington, D.C. or the District of Columbia. It's the county court that is the Supreme Court that has jurisdiction over the soil, which of course is where we live and breathe and have our being. Okay, we all walk on the soil. We don't walk on the land which underlies it. Now, it is a truth that the land has to be there in order for the soil to be there. So the two are inextricably joined. But it's those county courts that get the final say on what goes in their county and what doesn't. So if you want to really empower yourselves, what you ultimately have to do is not just empower your state courts, which operate in international jurisdiction, but also to empower your county courts, because that's where pedal hits the metal regarding your individual lives and interests. So if you think about this, you'll see that the federal government issues are exactly flip-flopped and exactly opposite to ours. We hold our county court to be the final and supreme authority about anything going on in our counties. And we hold our state court to be the final authority, allowing or disallowing what goes on within the borders of our state. Now, what the de facto government has is a state trust and a state-of-state business organization, both of which are incorporated entities. Okay, so the state trust is supposed to be managed for the people of the state. That's where they came in and grabbed your assets and patted you on the head and said, oh, we'll take care of this for you. We're going to assume a custodial interest. And so the state trust is where they've cashiered all of your assets. That's where they're holding your land. That's where they're holding your name, your good name, your copyrighted name that they purloined for their use. That's where they're holding all of the gold and the silver and everything. It's all the physical assets are cashiered in their state trust. And they are presuming to act as your custodians. And then the state-of-state business organization has its entire business operation up and going, where they're making money, charging you for infractions of their rules. And this is where all the revenue from property taxes and all that kind of stuff goes, is into their state-of-state organization. Now, what's happened is they are running out of credit, and they're running out of credit basically because they've charged so much against your assets that your assets are consumed. While pretending to act as your custodians, what they've actually done is they've cashiered your assets and used them as collateral to borrow against, and then they've spent that and the credit up to such a degree that nobody will lend them any money on it. Okay? So they're going to go bankrupt. They have to go bankrupt on a cyclical scale in order to discharge all that debt.
Debt they took out on me. How do I fare? We know they're going to walk away, but they charged it on my assets. How do I fare?
You get stuck with the debt. That's how they're working this.
Okay, Donna wants to know, so does that mean until we have our own credit union, we will not be able to spend our AFDs? I don't think so, but.
Well, it will be more difficult for you to spend your AFDs. If you have your own credit union, you'll be able to just make this transition very seamlessly. But if you don't have your own credit union, then you'll still be able to spend your AFDs. You just won't have quite the facility to do it. Which means that all of the state assemblies should be highly motivated as soon as the door opens to get their regional hub involved in helping them set up a credit union in their state. It really doesn't take very long, about a month, beginning to end. You locate your facility. Usually there are thousands of local banks and credit unions that have gone out of business, right? So you find one of those vacant buildings, you buy that building, you move in your computers and your software, and you make your hires locally, and then the state assembly has a credit union chairman that works with the credit union committee, and you just put together your own credit union, and it's available for all of the members of the assembly to use. So I would suggest that right now you get your motors running, find somebody to act as the chairman of that committee, and get the committee booted up and ready to start working with the regional hub credit unions to get your credit union set up, and start looking around for properties that might work as a good facility to begin the process in your state.
You did it, Anna. We have hit the whole hour, and there's only one other question. I don't know if you want me to go ahead and put that up here. I mean, I don't know how fast this will be. Is there a way to avoid paying 20% tax on early retirement?
I'm assuming that is about your own personal IRA, or is that a contract? See, it could be a contractual obligation that if you retire early, you have to take a dock and 20% on your retirement. I'm not sure where this question is coming from.
Right.
So.
All right, guys, you guys can clean your questions up a little bit. Be very specific. We can't be making assumptions when we're trying to answer your questions. We love you so much, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, Anna.